Now let's talk about line charts. Line charts are commonly used when we want to show a trend over time, um, and in a situation where the categories are in logical order. So in this case, we're going by date. There's actually a data point for each month, and we're going across, so that's a very logical order, and it's kind of a classic use case for a line chart. The other reason that it is kind of a classic use case is because of the number of data points. As I mentioned, we've got a data point for each month, and that's going across several years. So it's useful to have a line. Whereas if we only had two or three data points, the line would look quite jerky, and there's really no point in using a line as opposed to something like a column or a bar. But if we were trying to use columns or bars for this number of data points, it would just be really hard to see, and the line is the more useful display. Some things to keep in mind for a line chart as before, um, really advising to start axes with 0 for quantitative axes. So in this case, it's the same data, but instead of starting with 0, as we did here for the y-axis, we're starting with 400,000. And as you can see by comparing the two, even though it's the same data, when we shrink the axis and don't start at 0, it makes the trend look much more extreme. Whereas here, when we did start at 0, we can still very clearly see the trend, but we see it in kind of a more realistic proportion than we do when we shrink the axis.